Welcome, everyone, to the 700 Club. They can't win, but Democrats in the Senate are going to keep fighting against President Trump's cabinet nominees after they failed to stop his choice for Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos. Now, the Democrats have turned their fire on the president's pick for Attorney General, Alabama Senator Jeff Sessions. Mark Martin has the story.
The debate over Sessions ramped up when Republicans invoked an obscure Senate rule to formally silence Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren. They accused her of questioning the character of Sessions when she read an opposition letter from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s widow, Coretta Scott King, written during the time of Sessions' failed judicial nomination 3 decades ago.
This is a reminder, not pertinent necessarily what you just shared. However, you stated that a sitting senator is a disgrace to the Department of Justice.
Mr. President, the senators impugn the motives and conduct of our colleague from Alabama as warned by the chair. Senator Warren, quote, said Senator Sessions has used the awesome power of his office to chill the free exercise of the vote by black citizens.
Mr. President, I am surprised that the words of Coretta Scott King are not suitable for debate in the United States Senate. I ask leave of the Senate to continue my remarks.
Warren later finished her speech on Facebook. The fight over Sessions comes after President Trump's nominee for Education Secretary Betsy DeVos was confirmed after a long, contentious confirmation battle, a battle that resulted in Vice President Mike Pence breaking a 50-50 tie in the Senate.
Never before has a vice president been called upon to cast a tie-breaking vote for a cabinet nominee. When I cast my first vote in the United States Senate, though, I wasn't just voting for you. Having seen your devotion to improving the quality of education for some of our most vulnerable children across the nation for so many years, I was also casting a vote for America's children. And I can tell you, my vote for Betsy DeVos was the easiest vote I ever cast.
Opponents who criticized DeVos for her lack of experience in public education have promised to keep up their opposition to her even after she takes office. And opponents say there was an outpouring of comments against her. Republicans and conservatives blasted Democrats for simply carrying out the agenda of teachers' unions. DeVos supports school choice and charter schools. DeVos did not make any comments at her swearing-in ceremony. As for Sessions, despite Democratic opposition, the Senate is expected to vote on his nomination tonight, and then on Congressman Tom Price for Secretary of Health and Human Services and Steven Mnuchin for Treasury Secretary later in the week.
It's really time for our friends on the other side to get over the election. Let this administration get up and get running. We'll get through all of these nominations. It's taking longer than it should, but we'll get through all of them sooner rather than later.
Mark Martin, CBN News.
Well, despite that fierce opposition, it's been victory after victory for President Trump and his administration so far. We'll see what happens with Senator Jeff Sessions. Well, in other news, federal judges on the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals have taken on the case over President Trump's temporary immigration order. John Jessup has that story. John?
That's right, Wendy. The president took that action to make good on a key promise he made on the campaign trail. But as White House correspondent Jennifer Wishon reports, the legal battle is far from over.
Americans seem to either love or hate President Donald Trump's executive action that keeps people from 7 Muslim-majority nations known to harbor terrorists from visiting the U.S. And the controversy continues.
Judges addressed whether or not the block on the president's executive order should be lifted. A hearing on the legality of the executive order is still to come, and the Trump administration feels confident the law is on their side.
It says, quote, whenever the president finds that the entry of any aliens or of any class of aliens into the United States would be detrimental to the interests of the United States, he may by proclamation, and for such period as he shall deem necessary, suspend the entry of all aliens or any class of aliens as immigrants or non-immigrants, or impose on the entry of aliens any restrictions which he may deem appropriate.
Despite their confidence, Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly told a House committee that in hindsight, he should have delayed implementing the order to brief Congress on the details. Ranking member Democrat Benny Thompson asked Kelly if any terrorists had made their way into the country during the time the court halted the ban.
You don't have any proof at this point?
Not until the boom.
Not until what?
Not until they act and blow something up or go into a mall and kill people. So we won't know until then.
Donald Trump has got to go. Hey, hey!
pockets of protest continue, this one in Houston.
We want to let the world know that this country welcomes Muslims. We're not going to stand for a ban.
President Trump told a group of visiting sheriffs a ban on immigrants from certain countries is just common sense.
If you remember, ISIS said we are going to infiltrate the United States and other countries through the migration. And then we're not allowed to be tough on the people coming in?
If the executive order ends up at the Supreme Court, it's not a guarantee the court would deadlock. Justice Anthony Kennedy, the swing vote, could uphold the president's order. Depending on the timing, Judge Neil Gorsuch could also find himself weighing in on any decision. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, the White House.
Thanks, Jennifer. Wendy, we'll send it back to you.
All right, thanks, John. Man, this opposition to the Muslim ban has been so intense and so fierce. And Pat's here with us now. Pat, did you ever anticipate that we would see this?
No. I think the president made a big strategic mistake on this one. He should have gone for a tax cut. That's what the people want. This thing is a distraction, frankly. I mean, it's like, who cares? But, Wendy, the thing is, there were people on the payroll in November. I mentioned it yesterday. I'll say it again. They were on the payroll in November. They already hired demonstrators, and they're still paying them to demonstrate. I mean, it's a put-up job, the whole thing, all this outrage. About 100 people.
The Democrats should be ashamed of that.
Well, of course they ought to be ashamed, but the president has certain authority to do this. But unfortunately, he's got himself stuck in this, tar baby thing, and he should have been getting tax cuts, getting his cabinet in, getting tax cuts, and this is a distraction. And I don't think the people understand it, and nobody understands it, and we're not really sure what it all means. But it shouldn't be at the Supreme Court to determine whether the President of the United States has the power to keep aliens out of the country. Of course he does. All right.
All right. John, back to you.
Well, in eastern New Orleans, it is now considered a disaster zone after 7 tornadoes blasted through several parishes. The storms flipped cars, stripped roofs from homes, and destroyed businesses. At least 40 people were injured. The worst damage was in New Orleans' 9th Ward, which was heavily damaged by Hurricane Katrina in 2005.
You're in a wide open area right here, so, the winds, have really nothing to stop them. But in town, you have a lot of older houses, and they have tin roofs, and you would have had plenty of projectiles flying through town, which could have been really, really bad.
Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards says there's extensive damage, but, quote, the Lord has blessed us with not a single fatality at this time. Well, turning to health news, the healthiest diet for your body and your brain is one that's made up of things that grow, like fruits and vegetables, according to a finding from several studies. Lori Johnson files this report.
When it comes to plant-based eating, the Mediterranean diet scores high marks. Colorful vegetables and fruits serve as the foundation of the diet. Leafy greens like spinach, kale, and the rest of the rainbow. Peppers, carrots, eggplant, tomatoes, and blueberries. Legumes like beans are on it, as well as whole grains like old-fashioned oats. Olive oil is a key, as are nuts and seeds. The non-plant foods include fish, some dairy like unsweetened yogurt and cheese, and a little poultry like chicken. Noticeably missing from the Mediterranean and other plant-based diets are sugars and processed grains, which are in most packaged foods. Also missing beef and pork. A panel of health experts examined 40 different diets for weight loss, preventing diabetes, and keeping your heart healthy. The top 5 diets were all plant-based, like the Mediterranean diet. When it comes to preventing stroke and Alzheimer's, the medical journal Neurology followed 400 people in their 70s and found the people least likely to lose brain volume were those who followed the Mediterranean diet. And a different study found that older people who ate that diet had brains that were 5 years younger than their actual age. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Thanks, Lori. Pat, some healthy eating tips.
I do it. That's what I eat. I'm not going to eat that other stuff.
That looked so delicious, too, didn't it?
Well, it is delicious. I had the doctor with the South Beach diet, and now it's the Mediterranean diet. Well, he's such a nice guy. And what he says is absolutely right. Do you eat that stuff?
As much as I can. I've been doing my green drink again, which I'm going to bring in, and I'm going to let you try it.
Well,
but,
I do I've got some little green powder and some red powder. I mix them together, some orange juice.
I had some green powder this morning, like barley and something, and then I had a hard-boiled egg.
Well, I hope my brain is staying alive and everything's fine, but I'm doing it. But imagine shrinking your brain 5 years on account of eating all that stuff. But you eat steaks, and you eat cake, and you eat pie, and you eat ice cream, and you eat sweets, and you eat processed food. And what happens? Shrinks your brain. Isn't that amazing?
It's just like in the book of Daniel. Daniel said, don't eat the king's food.
That's right. Eat pulse and whatever it is they were eating, but it's good for you. All right. Wendy, what's next?
Well, up next, we take you behind the scenes of a new segment on the Dr. Oz show. It's called Faithful Fridays.
And I've seen too many times in my own life people in front of me who should not have made it and who pulled through. It reinforces my faith.
We've got more. We'll have more from Dr. Oz and his new team of power preachers.
Dr. Oz is one of the most famous doctors in the world. Mehmet Oz, he was raised as a Sufi Muslim. He has been very attracted to the teachings of Swedenborg. He is highly spiritual and yet is a Muslim by training and background. But he has very much taken to the Christian people he's had on this program. So this is what we're going to show next, is these people that he is featuring on his show. But he is probably the most influential medical man in the whole world right now.
And he's still a practicing Muslim.
A practicing Muslim, but it was the Sufi branch. And then, as I say, he was attracted to Swedenborg. But now our reporter says that he's very taken by the people he's discussing in this segment.